Did you know that you are potentially multi-orgasmic and that everyone is? We all have the parts to make it happen. The only thing we might not have is the information. So tonight, I want to talk about one of the most extraordinary gifts and abilities that human beings can have, and it's called the Big O, also known as multi-orgasm. And then there's an other orgasm that's even bigger than that one, and it's called the blended orgasm. So I want to discuss these, and I want to talk about what makes them different, uh, how to make it happen, who can make it happen, what is the difference between them, when can it happen, and where can it happen. So the first thing to know is that every single person is potentially multi-orgasmic. Through the men, it's through their prostate. And through the women, it's through their G-spot. Now, because we have for so many years denied our pleasure points, and we have been embarrassed about them, and there is no place where people actually talk about these things to learn, we've been at the mercy of pornography. And pornography doesn't really show everything. It shows the end results. It doesn't show all the effort that it took to get to that place. So today, I want to talk about what it is to have a multi-orgasm and what makes it different than a clitoral orgasm. So now orgasms are good. They're good for you. They're good for your mind, your body, your spirit. They're just good for you, good for your health, your blood pressure. They're just good for you. But what makes the difference between a clitoral orgasm and a G-spot orgasm, or is that the clitoral orgasm is usually singular. You have one, and your clitoris is so extremely sensitive after that, throbbing, we would say, that for anyone to touch it again anytime soon is very, very uncomfortable. And then by the time you do get to the point where it can be touched again, it's a whole different build up to that. So we won't say it's multi-orgasm, because multi-orgasm is one after another. You have one, 5 seconds later, your body goes down, relaxes a little bit, boom, you hit another one, another 5 seconds later, you hit another one. That's multi-orgasmic. Or clitoral, it's one explosive orgasm. It's phenomenal, it's great, it's healthy, it's wonderful, but it's singular. So now, how does one achieve a vaginal orgasm? Well, the first thing you have to know is where the G-spot is. A lot of people are kind of on the fence about whether they even believe that there is a G-spot, but that's the false information that some men have come up with because they don't have one, and because they might even be a little jealous, and because they're just ignorant about the female body. And don't say, well, gee, they can't possibly be ignorant. Men are not ignorant. When it comes to female parts, they're pretty ignorant, okay? When it comes to female health, they're pretty ignorant. They treat women like they're men. And we're not smaller versions of men. We're completely different. So, yeah, there is a G-spot. Now, where is it? The G-spot is located 1.5 inches up on the front center wall of the vagina. It's anywhere from the size of a dime to the size of a quarter. It's usually very small, and it's inside the wall. But when the walls are pumped up with blood because of adequate foreplay, the G-spot swells and actually protrudes from the wall. So I'll show you with my finger. So normally the G-spot would be here, and then when the wall fills with blood, it actually protrudes from the wall. Now this is the area that one would need slow, deep, consistent pressure on that area. And the only part of the penis that can do the job adequately is the head of the penis, and that's because it has a ridge that actually rubs up against the G-spot and creates more of a sensation. Now, if the penis head goes right past the G-spot because he's busy banging the cervix, the only thing that's rubbing the G-spot is the shaft. That's when you're literally getting the shaft, because the shaft cannot give the right kind of pressure and texture up against the G-spot to create a vaginal orgasm. So when it comes to vaginal orgasm, it really isn't how long or big a fellow is, it's what he knows what to do with his equipment. So really, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches max of what his penis size is needs to go in. And then the rub itself is an imperceptible rub. It's just a little bit of back and forth, maybe like a 1/2 inch in either direction, and consistently there. Now, it's a good idea to do a couple of things to prepare for that kind of vaginal orgasm. And number one is do your Kegels. If you are not doing your Kegels and you've had a couple of children, 2 or more children, your vagina is not quite as toned as you think it is, or you might believe it is. A way to test this is that you want to, next time you do urinate, stop the urine flow. If you can stop the urine flow on a dime, just by squeezing the PC muscle, you have strong, tight PC muscles, and you have a good chance of having a vaginal orgasm. But if you try to stop the urine flow, and you cannot, or there's dribbling or any of this, or if you laugh, cough, or sneeze and you pee on yourself a little bit, again, that's an indicator that your PC muscles are not that strong. And if they're not that strong, then the chances of having a vaginal orgasm are less. So the most important thing for any woman who wants to have a vaginal orgasm is to remember to do her Kegel exercises every single day. And you can do them. I think the best time to do them is whenever you're sitting at a traffic light. If you drive a lot, if you're in the car often, every time you stop at a traffic light, Kegel. And then this way, by the end of the day, you'll get the prescribed 300 Kegels a day. It's not enough to do 10 and call it a day. I don't know who came up with that number. It's ridiculous. It's like doing 10 arm curls with a 5-pound weight. You think that's going to develop a muscle? It's not. You absolutely have to put a little bit of stress on that area and sustain it for a while. So Kegel muscles or Kegel exercises are extremely important in helping to prepare the area. The second thing you need to know is where the G-spot is. It's 1.5 inches up, but it's not exactly in the same spot for every single woman. Sometimes it's 12 o'clock straight up. Other times it might be a little to 11, a little to 1, so it's not the same exact location. That's the general space for it, 1.5 inches up on the front center wall. Now, how do you know if you are rubbing the G-spot? When you're not excited and you press on the G-spot, it is an uncomfortable sensation. It's right in front of the urethra, so pressing on the G-spot when you're not excited is an uncomfortable sensation. It kind of makes you feel like you want to pee. When you're very excited and you're rubbing up against the G-spot, it is a very intense and exciting sensation that feels phenomenal. Another way of locating it is to take the famous finger and to put it up inside the vagina about to the second knuckle. When you go to the second knuckle and it's to the front, you do this come hither kind of action with your finger, and you will feel a lumpy area on the front of the vagina as opposed to the rest of the vaginal wall. Whether it's teeny tiny or whether it's the size of a dime or a nickel, it is going to grow as you do your Kegel exercises. So do your Kegel exercises regularly to help push that spot out. Now, another thing is important to help achieve the vaginal orgasm is that there has to be enough foreplay to make sure that there is enough blood inside the walls of the vagina so that it will pump up the G-spot, so that the woman is adequately excited. Now, I know in this very rushed society, people are constantly pressed for time. And so, to try to get it together, they want to get it in and get it done and move on to something else. But that's a very unhealthy way of approaching one's sexuality, which is truly one of the most wonderful gifts that we have to maintain health, to maintain good blood pressure, to maintain youthfulness, is to take some time to be intimate with our partner and to work towards having a vaginal orgasm, and then to achieve that vaginal orgasm is better than any medicine you will ever take. So again, the exploration is really nice. And after the woman has found the G spot inside her own vagina, then she needs to introduce it to her lover. Whether she introduces it with the finger going inside and then hitting it and saying, yes, yes, that's it, where it is, or whether she guides his penis inside of her or a vibrator inside of her up to the point, that is very important in getting the right kind of logistics so that it's going to be rubbed consistently. If you go past it and the only thing that's rubbing up against it is the shaft, that is not going to be enough to help the vaginal orgasm happen. Another good thing to remember is that because of the shape of the vagina, it's always good to put a pillow under your hips, under her hips, I should say, which will elevate the hips a little bit, and so that she does not have to hold herself up. And when he goes in, lots of lubrication between the two of them, all over the vaginal area, all over the penis, of course, and then an imperceptible rub back and forth so the penis head will hit the G-spot. It's not a thrusting action. And I know that in pornography, it looks like that's something that's spectacular, all that pumping going on, but really the only person that's getting pleasured by that is him. If he wants her to be pleasured, he needs to have a little bit of control, a little bit of direction, a little bit of focus, and he can actually not only help her to achieve the most explosive orgasm ever, but the healthiest thing that she can do for her body too. Because like I said, it's almost like having a cardio exercise when you're having that kind of extraordinary coitus. Okay? So now, when is this a good thing to do? It's actually good anytime you want it, but you have to prepare for it. So if you do not have adequate time, if you do not have at least 20 to 30 minutes of time to invest in foreplay, in stimulating one another, in kissing, in fondling, in touching each other in sensitive ways to build the excitement, then don't go for a G-spot orgasm, because you cannot rush this. It has to come in its own time, and that's no pun intended. It absolutely cannot be rushed. And trying to force someone to hurry up and have an orgasm is counterintuitive. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So when you have the desire, and when you have the time and knowing where it is, and you've put everything together for yourself so that all the props are there, it is definitely worth the effort. Now, there are wonderful ways to learn how to have a G-spot orgasm on your own. I've already talked about one, but I'm going to mention it again because it's very, very important. Get yourself a set of Benoit balls. Benoit balls are two gold-plated stainless steel balls that are placed 1.5 inches up to 2 inches inside the vagina. When you first put them in, they'll stay without much effort on your part. But then when you start to do the Kegel exercises, which is to squeeze, relax the PC muscle around the Benoits, within 2 minutes, the vagina gets very wet and the balls start to slip down and out. And using nothing but your vaginal muscles, you keep the balls from falling out. Now, if you do that, and you do that, well, the Kegel exercises every day, but Benoits at least once a week, You will help to strengthen and tone and sensitize the vagina so that Kegel exercises are become easier to do, and the vagina has become strengthened and toned to be able to respond to the stimulation of the G-spot and to produce the vaginal orgasm. It's not something you can just do once in a blue moon. If you're going to do Kegel exercises once a year, don't bother, okay? You got to do them every single day. You need to do like 300 a day. And although you can do them all in one shot at a 5-minute song, a lot of people have a hard time even thinking about doing that. So just get in the habit of doing them every time you're sitting at a traffic light. You can start doing your Kegel exercises, and if you get into that habit, you'll get a nice, strong, toned vagina. Of course, you're not using Benoits while you're sitting at the traffic light. That's a tool that is used in the privacy of your own home. You never leave the house with Benoit balls in, because that would be just plain dangerous. So you want to do your Kegel exercises, and you want to do them regularly so that the vagina will be nice and toned and ready for the kind of stimulation that it's going to be getting. Another tool for helping people to find the G-spot and to help excite it even more is this phenomenal product called Ooh, That's It. Ooh, That's It is a cream that is specifically designed to help locate the G-spot. 1.5 inches up, you take a little bit, you put it on the famous finger, you go up to the front, you rub it around the front of the vagina. It helps to sensitize that particular area so that you can physically know exactly where that G-spot is, and so that when your lover goes inside, or if you're going to put a toy inside, that you know exactly where the head should go. And it's the head that's the most important part of that stimulation, the head of the penis or the head of the toy, because you want the head to rub up against the G-spot. And if you do that and then add some Kegels to it and have a pillow under your hips, I'm telling you, is it worth it? Definitely worth it. Orgasm is a beautiful, phenomenal experience that we are all capable of having. The problem is that because so many people have been watching so much pornography, they think that it's all about how fast he can come, or it's all about his orgasm and getting in and getting it done and, shooting his load and all this other sort of thing. And, I guess, men deserve to have pleasure also, but the person that they're having the sex with is a multi-orgasmic creature. And if given the time and consideration and technique and patience to stimulate one of the most phenomenal areas of the human body, which is the G-spot, it is the most explosive, dynamic, phenomenal orgasm that anybody can have. So what makes a multiple orgasm multiple? The first one hits, and it's an explosion of energy that emanates from the G-spot up and down the length of the body. Then the body kind of recovers for a moment, and then boom, another one hits, not 5 seconds later. And each time that a multiple orgasm is going to be generated, each one is a little more intense than the one that preceded it. There was a study done at Rutgers University years ago, and they wanted to see how many orgasms could a woman have in, say, an hour's time. Well, the subject they had, she was an extraordinary person. Not everybody can do this. She had 62 orgasms in an hour. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should all try for 62 orgasms in an hour, but it's something to shoot for. At least 5, at least 10. It's not ridiculous to expect that from your body. It just takes a little bit of preparation, it takes a little bit of knowledge, and it takes some time. So important to understand that sex is not meant to be a rushed activity. It is meant to be timed for closeness, time for intimacy, time for understanding each other's body, and for like a synergistic exchange of energy. And when you are giving yourself that kind of time to have that kind of pleasure, it is truly one of the most beautiful, phenomenal gifts that you can possibly give to yourself. Now, if you have a hard time talking about this to your young women in your life and you would like them to know more about the G-spot orgasm, like this page and post comments. It's always my pleasure to answer any and all questions. I've been a sensuality consultant for 40 years. It's a long time. I've answered a lot of questions, and it's always my pleasure to help women and men to have the most satisfying sex life. They shouldn't sell themselves short. Sex was never meant to be a quickie. And when we do that, we shortchange ourselves in so many ways, physically, psychologically, and even spiritually. It is meant to be a leisurely affair where we take our time to connect emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. And if you are aiming for a vaginal orgasm for your partner or for yourself, the number one element is taking your time and the right kind of preparation. So I hope you all have appreciated this little talk about the difference between a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm. Both of them are great, and any kind of orgasm is fine with me, but only 5% of women ever have a vaginal orgasm with any kind of regularity. And I'd like to see those odds increased. I'd like to hear how so many more women are having such a phenomenally satisfying sex life because they're taking the time to prepare, they're taking the time to take care of themselves, they're doing their Kegel exercises, and more importantly, they know that they deserve pleasure. You have this phenomenal potential for pleasure inside your body, healthier than anything that you can ingest, any kind of pill, any kind of surgery. Nothing is healthier for your body than the orgasmic explosion of synergistic energy that rushes through your body as the greatest gift that you can possibly generate for yourself. And to relegate it to a quickie is to cheat yourself on a regular basis. So I hope you will give this some food for thought. My name is Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, and this is the website here. Join me on my website, ask questions. I have a comments page, and if you'd like to know more, there's lots of information there. Join me on your pleasure, and join me every Wednesday for another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, thanking you so much. See you next week. Bye for now. And don't forget to do your Kegel exercises. Bye.